What's up, Wise Flyers? David here. Is there really such thing as getting a cruise for cheap? Because those things are really expensive usually, but with my experience, I've been able to save thousands of dollars on these cruises. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips to get cheap cruises. In January of 2019, I went on a 6-night Royal Caribbean cruise with my wife and 2 daughters, and it cost us $101. That's because we used points for those cruises. In November of 2019, I went on a 7-night Royal Caribbean cruise on the Allure of the Seas with my wife and 2 daughters. That one cost us $670 per adult for a balcony room, and kids sailed free, plus it was 40% off on that second adult. I think that was actually a really good deal because those rooms are usually a lot more expensive, and we actually got the very last balcony room on the entire ship. It was room 666. Not sure if that had anything to do with it. We actually booked that cruise 2 weeks before actually sailing, so it was kind of a last minute thing because we saw a really good deal, so we were spontaneous and decided to book it and go on that cruise. Which brings me to my first tip, which is to be flexible with when you're going to cruise. So there's a few different options here. So if you are going for a last minute cruise, I recommend lastminutecruises.com. There's a bunch of cruises that are last minute where they're trying to fill up the cabins because they don't have enough occupancy, and so on this site they offer a lot of deals at a much cheaper price than usual. And that's how we were able to book that Allure of the Seas Royal Caribbean balcony room on our last cruise in November 2019 because of how flexible we were. We just booked it a few weeks before. The rooms cost $670 per adult. It was 40% off the second adult, but usually those rooms will cost up to $1,000. So that's where it's key to be flexible. Now, I realize not everyone could be as flexible with their schedules. You have to, put in time for work, or kids are in school, stuff like that. So this next tip is going to be book at the right time. Cruise lines typically offer the lowest rates when a new itinerary just becomes available, which means you're going to have to be able to book your cruises 12 to 18 months in advance. So the further away from the cruise you could book it, the better. The farther, as you could even go like a year or 2 out with certain cruises. And the best time to book cruises would be what's considered wave season, which is January to March. This is when a lot of different cruise companies offer extras to get a bunch of people to cruise with them. So not only will it be discounted prices, but they'll also offer complimentary flights or cabin upgrades or onboard spending during January to March. They offer it during other months, but for whatever reason, the cruises offer the most between January and March during wave season. Also, another tip with booking the timing of your cruise would be during school time. So September, October, although if you're going into the Caribbean, these are the hurricane time season, so you may have a little risk there, but at the same time, not a lot of people want to book during that time just because kids are in school. Also, it is hurricane season. But with those risks come a lot cheaper prices for cruises. If you're going to go during the holidays or school breaks, the cruises are going to be really packed. The prices are going to be much higher because that's when everyone wants to travel, when their kids are in school. So if possible, if you have kids, try to take them out of school just for a week for an amazing Caribbean cruise experience. Also, early December, so after Thanksgiving but before Christmas, is another good time to book cruises. And if you're trying to get some European cruises, you could book during these shoulder seasons. So May or October, which are kind of like the in-between weather. It could be a little colder, or it's kind of in transition of tourist season. That could be a really good time to book cruises and get cheaper prices that way for Europe. The next tip to get a cheap cruise is to book a repositioning cruise. So this has been a long time bucket list item for me. A repositioning cruise is when a cruise ship that normally does its regular route of staying in a certain area, they do that for several months at a time. When they're going to another area of the world, that's called the repositioning cruise, when they're going to the other side of the world or crossing the ocean. For example, if a ship is doing Caribbean cruises during the winter and then it relocates to the Mediterranean for the summer, getting that cruise ship from the Caribbean over to the Mediterranean would be considered a repositioning cruise. So these repositioning cruises could be up to 50 to 70% off of that cruise. They're a lot longer. They're probably going to be longer than a 7-day cruise, or sometimes 10 to 14 days for that cruise, but it's a lot cheaper per day and you're going to get a lot more value for that cruise. For example, cruise ships in Alaska that only do their cruises for the summertime. September, October, when the season changes and they're no longer doing cruises in Alaska, that's when you're going to find some really good repositioning deals, because they're going to go to the Caribbean, they're going to go to Hawaii or other parts of the world. And the next tip would be to use travel points, which is what I did in that first example, January 2019, when I went on a 6-night Royal Caribbean cruise on the Adventures of the Sea ship with my wife and 2 daughters. It would have cost us $2,600, but because I used travel points from credit cards, it only cost me $101. And using travel points to get free travel is pretty much what this channel is all about. So if you're new here and you want to learn how to travel anywhere almost free by using credit cards and travel points, start now by subscribing and hitting the bell so you don't miss a thing. So there are several credit cards that'll give you travel points as sign-up offers, which you could use for cruises, or you could use other credit cards that offer airline miles to get your flights to the cruise embarkation place. Usually anytime you go on a cruise, you're gonna have to stay at the hotel the night before embarkation or the night after you get off the cruise, so you can get credit cards that offer hotel points there. And if you want to learn specifically exactly how I was able to get that cruise for $101, you could click this link right over here. It goes into detail exactly which cards I used, how I got all the points, or click this link over here for more cruise tips, and I'll see you in the next video.